That's hate speech. That's extremism. You're blocked from exploring or even considering a set of potential scientific facts. If you're an academic, you'll not get funding for your research. You'll be kicked out of academia. You'll get banned from social media. You might even be charged with hate speech in some secular countries. You're not allowed to research scientific facts that are politically incorrect according to the secular establishment. It's just asserted that science supports the secular position. So where's the skepticism from atheists?
What Daniel describes now is how he sees the secular world, not how things really are. Someone just needs to watch the documentaries from his channel to understand his mental state and how grim and pessimistically he sees the modern world. Daniel Haqiqatjou has exactly the same views of the modern world as Unabomber. Literally. If you read the manifesto of the Unabomber, the serial killer, he's getting exactly the same picture of the world as Daniel. But here we are not debating the imaginary liberal world in Daniel's psychotic mind. We are debating true liberal democracies. And in this video, he describes the modern human condition. In other words, Unabomber's philosophy. This guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, we may be approaching a fateful hour.
Wow, the Unabomber is coming.
D-Day is here. The invasion has begun.
First, some context. Science fiction portrays three visions of the future of humanity. First, there's the dystopian future where all of mankind is enslaved as the human spirit is crushed under the weight of a totalitarian regime that reduces human beings to mere cogs in a massive technocratic wasteland. Second, there's the equally dystopian future where humanity is also enslaved, but authorities use mass media in tandem with powerful pharmaceuticals to dope the masses into seeing their condition as one of freedom, pleasure, and bliss. Then there's the third vision of the future, perhaps the most terrifying, where the human race no longer exists because technology has finally made the human body and even the human mind obsolete. Instead of men and women, the world is populated with robots, androids, and disembodied cyberhumans.
Now you took a taste of how Daniel sees liberal democracy. You just jumped for a couple of seconds in his mind. It's a horror movie. And now we are expected to believe that this person, the Unabomber, will give an objective picture of what is liberal secular democracies. Okay. Then this impartial, objective observer, this neutral observer that knows how to judge political systems, praised a ruthless dictator in Brunei. Look, he says, if you have had a rough week or are feeling down in the dumps, I have just the news to cheer you up. The Muslim country of Brunei is implementing hudud to crack down on sodomites and fornicators. Reuters says.
Reuters. Brunei has defended its right to implement Islamic laws that would allow death by stoning for adultery and homosexuality, against growing global criticism. Brunei, a Muslim-majority former British protectorate, with a population of around 400,000, will implement the Sharia laws from April 3, punishing sodomy, adultery and rape with the death penalty, including by stoning, and theft with amputation.
If you've never heard of Brunei before, it's a tiny oil-rich nation in Southeast Asia on Borneo Island, surrounded by Malaysia and Indonesia. About 2/3 of its 500,000 residents identify as Muslim, and is considered to be the most observant Islamic nation in Southeast Asia. It didn't take me long to realize that Brunei has horrifying human rights laws. In fact, they recently implemented a law that you can be stoned to death if you're gay. Stoned to death. There's also heavy discrimination against non-Muslims, which might explain why I was kicked out of that mosque. You see, Brunei has no freedom of speech, no freedom of press, and everything is controlled by the government. In addition, the level of corruption in this country amuses me. Brunei is sitting on lots of oil for such a small country, and hence, it's rich. One of the world's richest men is the Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah. His net worth is $20 billion, yet the country looks like it's still stuck in the 80s, and his people are suffering in poverty. If the Sultan spread just half of his wealth to Bruneian citizens, they'd each get a check for $23,255. Oh yeah, and maybe he could also donate one of his 600 Rolls Royces as well. Things like a strict alcohol ban, slow Wi-Fi, and a lack of anything to do aren't reasons to dislike a place, of course, but they certainly don't contribute much either. I will say that most of the locals are warm and genuine, almost as if they don't know they're living in such a dark regime. Or maybe they ignore it. In any case, it's safe to say that I will not be returning to Brunei anytime soon, and if you guys are planning to go, then I would advise you to think twice.
But wait, according to Haqiqatjou, we should salute the Sultan of Brunei and his 200 Rolls Royce. Not only that, guys, not only this demonized imbecile presented the Sultan of Brunei as a social reformer Gandhi just because he applies Sharia, at the same time he accused a total success story in Africa, Botswana, an example against democracy. Total success story, guys. Botswana is the most success story in Africa. And this demonized imbecile, because no one is that dumb, you need to be demonized. Okay, he presented Botswana as an example against democracy.
Let's move to the second category of examples regarding what is human nature. Are human beings naturally atheist or religious? Plenty of evidence suggests that humans are naturally religious and believe in God. This would support laws and policies that prioritize religious perspectives, but atheists will deny the scientific facts here, or they won't practice skepticism about liberal secular claims that all people are born as atheists and it's only indoctrination that makes people religious, and therefore religion should be barred in all matters of governance.
Just because people have a natural tendency to believe in God because of evolution, that made humans and animals, by the way, to see agency everywhere in order to survive, that doesn't mean God exists. This God is Allah, and the social instructions in the Quran became good. That's a non sequitur. As for your claim that atheists are in some grand conspiracy to hide this fact, here is the most famous atheist in the world acknowledging this fact.
We humans are obsessed with purpose. It seems perfectly natural when we're presented with an object to say, what's it for? It starts in childhood. The psychologist Deborah Kellerman has investigated this very interestingly with children, offering them a question like, why do you think these rocks are pointy? Is it because of some geological explanation, geological cause, or is it so that animals could scratch on them when they get itchy? And below a certain age, I think it's about 6, most children answer with the teleological answer with the purpose question. Yes, they're pointy so that animals can scratch on them when they get itchy. Children then mostly grow out of that purposive way of looking at the world, but not apparently everybody.
Your problem, Daniel, is that you watch, first of all, only the Muslim apologists. And you believe your own propaganda, in other words. You think they are saying something clever. Supposedly atheists are hiding the fact that children are born with a need to believe in God, and that is fitra, and this kind of nonsense. There is a very rational explanation why that happens. Okay, I know that 10 years now. But the difference of me from you is that I don't watch only Imran Hussein, Sobur Ahmed, and Farid Response. I have seen other things also. Okay, stop embarrassing yourself. Okay, you are complete ignoramus. You haven't seen anything. You just read Islamic literature. Anyway, let's continue.
Man finds himself institutionalized. He's born in an institution run by the state, the hospital. The instant he comes into the world, he's grabbed by the medical professionals and weighed and measured and injected. After a day or two, he might get to leave that institution, but guess what? His mother's a strong, independent woman.
So, the horror movie is a baby is born in a clinic and a mother is a strong woman. That is what terrifies Daniel. He makes fun of this. This doesn't terrify him. An ISIS caliphate doesn't terrify him. And he tweets jokes about ISIS executing homosexuals.
Daniel shared this joke on Twitter. Oh man, I missed the International Day Against Homophobia. The best way to celebrate such a beautiful, momentous, important day is the Muslim way. Recreational base jumping. Daniel Haqiqatjou here is referencing the Islamic punishment to execute gay people by throwing them off a high place and making their punishment a spectacle for people.
So let me try to understand your psychopathology. Okay, you find a horror movie. A baby was born in a clinic. His mother is a strong, independent woman. At the same time, you see people being executed, throwing them out of buildings, and when they come down, there are other psychopaths with stones stoning them. And you see this, and that's not a problem. Let's joke about it.
Another example, is promiscuity natural for women? If so, that fact would support the political ideology of sexual liberation, legalizing abortion, etc. But a ton of scientific evidence says that no, women are not naturally promiscuous, and there's a great deal of psychological and societal harm that comes with female promiscuity. But what is the response from proponents of a secular worldview? That's slut shaming, that's misogyny, you're just an incel. The conversation is shut down as hate speech. We're not allowed to scientifically investigate the anti-liberal position. Yet, when you poll atheists, 94% of atheists, according to Pew, think casual premarital sex is acceptable. Nearly 90% believe that abortion should be legal. You have near consensus from atheists on things that are not only not supported by science, but actually glaringly contradict the scientific evidence.
Daniel refers to women like they are men's property or children, that men should decide what to do with them, highlighting his prejudice against women. He then misrepresents reality, claiming that we have evidence that modesty laws and Islamic pious psychotic obsessions against the human body and sexuality are making better societies.
Here is another example of the terror regime of President Ahmadinejad and the Ayatollahs. Footage of the modesty police in action. On the streets of Tehran, in broad daylight, the two policewomen, clad in black and accompanied by a policeman, check whether women are modestly dressed.
According to Daniel and other scientists, we have evidence that this is in fact what makes better societies. Stoning women for adultery and fornication. Allowing people to have sex, in other words, only after marriage. According to Daniel, we have scientific evidence that this is in fact how we make better societies.
You know what? I don't believe in women's education. She kind of looked shocked back at me, stunned, like I was from a different planet. Many of you watching this are probably just as confused as my wife was that night. But after I explained to her exactly why I don't believe in women's education and my Islamic reasons for this, she came to fully agree with me. I hope the same will be the case with everyone listening today. My position in this debate is simple. Pursuing education empowers women, but Islam is against empowering women. I know this sounds shocking to some, but hear me out. What I mean by empowerment is increasing social status and power through education or career.
Daniel is the definition of a barbarian. He is απέδευτος. He hasn't got παιδεία, education. Education is primarily meant to make civilized citizens, sculpt their soul and character, and secondary learn practical information like mathematics and physics. Daniel went to Harvard, learned how to express himself efficiently, but he is completely uneducated. He blocked the ancient Greek type of philosophy from his mind and heart, and he is a barbarian. In fact, that is the definition of a barbarian. Varvaros comes from a Greek word, and it means whoever is not Greek. In other words, whoever hasn't allowed the Greek light to enter his soul. Okay, so his soul is a rough stone, it's not a marble. Denying women's education implies that women should not elevate their conscious state and achieve well-being. They should stay deficient in character and intellectually. They should be weak, subjugated, without any prospect to defend themselves against patriarchs. In other words, Daniel, following Islamic philosophical hooks, became a chauvinistic bigot that thinks denying half of humanity civilization, okay, is the best way to go forward.
There was a time I used to look into my father's eyes. In a happy home, I was a queen, I had a gold throne. Those days are gone, now the memories on the wall. I hear the sounds from the places where I was born. Upon the hill across the blue lake, that's where I had my first heartbreak. I still remember how it all changed. My mother said, don't you worry, child. See, heaven's got a plan for you. Don't you worry. loving night and day. Still hear the songs reminding me of a friend. Upon a hill across the blue lake, that's where I had my first heartbreak. I still remember how it all changed. My father said, don't you worry, child. He hasn't got a place for you. Don't you worry now. The heaven's got a place for you. Don't you worry, child. The heaven's got a place for you. Don't you worry now. Oh.